Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
We're back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitrón, and today we have a great guest, candidate for District 10, Congressional District 10, Ms. Linda Nuno. And we're going to touch base on why she wants to run, a little bit of her story, and the reasons behind her throwing her name in the hat. Well, how are we doing? We're doing good?
We're doing great. We're doing great, Professor. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for standing up, number one. You know, it's hard for people to write their name down on that dotted line. It takes some guts. It takes people a little bit of confidence to jump in the race. And once you get in there, you start getting bombarded with all the different issues that occur and which live, you know, because and I keep telling this to many candidates. You might be running on one political line or one political party, whether it's Democrat or Republican, but you still have to help the other ones when you get in there. You're gonna be doing it for both. So, you know, that's where a lot of them go, really? You know, they kind of look at you like the RCA dog. But anyway, let's talk a little bit. Explain me, who is Linda Nuno?
Linda Nuno is just one of you. We have walked in the same shoes. I have been derailed by the justice system when it comes to family court. I have been a victim of police corruption and cover-up and brutalization. I'm just another one of you. And if anything comes out of this race, I hope it's awareness and inspiration. I want every single one of you to know that you are not alone, that you have the right to own your story and use your pain to liber yourself and others, to not give up on democracy and your children's rights, your parental rights, your civil rights, your human rights. And I want to be a bridge. I wanna represent possibilities, right? And give hope to our community. We are in a pivotal moment in history where thousands and thousands of us here in Texas, and 22 million across the nation, have been parents alienated from their own children, right? In a corrupt, archaic system that we know it doesn't function in the best interest of children. We already know the judges, play for endorsements and get dark money in politics, and they always thinking about their next campaign and how to not get cross with the unions in order to get elected. And we already know that it's in the best interest of the lawyers to not get a settlement because they would need to work for their pockets, right? And a lot has been said, and I just want to thank you first and foremost for being one of these forums who actually educate other parents and give us solutions. And the felony on 2503, I just love the series that you made on the Cosa Nostra. There's a lot of information that doesn't reach the masses, you know, and is pivotal, necessary information just to survive and navigate the system and understand what you're against. I believe that the only way to ensure our parents' rights are being observed is not by just throwing more ink on paper. Is actually having an agency that can actually put those laws and apply those laws. I believe that just like Homeland Security Commission exists, we need a commission that hopefully will be called Home and Family Security. We are too involved with international politics when our families have been destroyed. And of course, this goes into a macro spectrum, and the toxicity that we're experiencing, the loneliness that our teenagers are having, and the rage and confusion and abandonment issues that they're having. Of course, they get translated into a society that is in chaos, right? Children are being alcoholics at 9 years old. Children are experimenting with drugs at age 13. I mean, things that in your time and my time, we wouldn't see, and it's just a symptom of the family union being broken apart by this system for profit, purely profit.
I understand what you're saying. Many people do not know what parental alienation is, even though they've seen it, they've lived through it. They still haven't realized that the name exists and this form of child abuse exists. Just to for the audience out there to know is in Texas there's a penal code. It's called 2503. That penal code is a state jail felony, and it's for interference with child visitation. Okay, and a lot of parents are not allowed to see their children when it's their time as to pick up their children, to visit with them, and so on and so forth. And what happens, I mean, this happens almost every other weekend here in the state of Texas. And the police lie to the parents. Number one, they say it's not a criminal matter; it's a civil matter. They say, and the second lie that they say is that the district attorneys don't prosecute. There are some the district attorneys that have said that they're not going to prosecute those cases. I think they need to be voted out by the people, because parental alienation, there's a lot of doctors and a lot of experts in it that are behind it, a lot of activists that have been researching this and seeing the movement and seeing what it does. That, I have like you mentioned the Cosa Nostra. I did a documentary which is called the Judicial Cosa Nostra, the War on Parents. You can find it on YouTube. In fact, I'll link it up in a little bit with the video for people can look at it. It'll be on top. And you can start getting educated on, because there were several bills that were trying to pass with that for the alienation of that. And they were squashed when they got into the Senate. And we have had both Republicans and Democrats help out for these bills, because this is not a political issue anymore. This is a family issue. This is for everybody that's here, and people need to understand that. And we have to stop that. Oh, the Republican did put the bill forth, so we're going to vote against it. No, the Democrat did. If it's a bill that's good for the community, it better be passed. And that's just the way it is. But I do agree with you about the pain and the suffering that many people have done. I also understand that, how can I put it? We need to change, but that's one spectrum of the aisle. There's a lot of other things out there, and I'll ask you, this is a question I ask all the candidates that I interview, is what will Linda Nuno bring to the table to make change?
The most important thing is honesty. I have my own case. My own daughter's life is on the line. I'm not a politician. I think that should be good enough. I will not tell you what you want to hear. I will tell you what it is. And I am bold and crude and brutal if necessary. I have walked the walk with you. A lot of these politicians have been desensitized because they don't know what it is to have the trauma, the pain, the suffering, the struggle that parents go every single day without their children. I believe that there's a gap between the judicial system and actually applying the law. I have walked the walk. I used to be an orphan. I was in an orphanage for a couple years. I know what happens behind those walls. You will not find on the ballot another person who, on top of being a victim of the system, was an advocate and activist. You will not find another politician that can say that has been a political prisoner. And what do I mean by that? I was unlawfully arrested during the protest against ICE separating the children across the border. we wanted to shed light on what's happening to our women of color, how they're practicing hysterectomies and how they lost 545 kids at the time, and how when they found some of these kids, they come up with, they expose that they were raped, and then how the chief of ICE actually went to the Supreme Court in Washington and said that they were not responsible for the rapes and sodomization of children that happened in their installations. And neither was his responsibility that those practices and pedophilia was conducted while some of these officers were wearing the uniform. And that was said on the Supreme Court. And if this is not child trafficking and one of the worst, most disgusting practices when it comes to crimes against humanity, against children, nothing is, right? But the problem is that people are not being persecuted. The problem is that there's a lot of interest behind the lines. And just like you said, it doesn't matter if you are a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or aligned with the Green Tea Party. The reality is that you have to put in consideration what is important to you. What are your priorities? And your priorities should be apparent. And if that is not your priority, I mean, I'm sorry, but I have lost all respect. I believe that what matters to our families and what's happening to the division in the name of profit should be addressed once and for all. I believe that although we have, and you're referring just to Texas, the Penal Code of Texas has a 2503, thankfully. Texas is one of the very few states that actually allow jury trials in custody cases. And there are very few of those states that allow this practice. And it's a practice that is not taken care of and is not used. That's a legal resource that many lawyers will not dare to even mention because it costs, time and they want to be in the good grace of judges, right? They don't want the society to actually take part of this process. I believe that court reporters need to be abolished, not just because of the lack of transparency, but when you are able to actually pay for a transcript and you compare your recordings to the document that is given, it's a complete, total different scenario. It's a complete, total different story. And that is even if you're lucky, to go to appeals. Less than 10% of the cases that are tried and on district level will actually reach an appeal court, and even less will succeed because judges are, it's atomic clock. They want to be in the good graces of other judges, and justice is never served. So I just don't. We know the problems that we have. As a parent, what are the challenges that you have brought, and very few elected officials talk about solutions. What are the solutions? What are you bringing to the table in order to ensure that this will never happen again to another family? And one of them is, like I said, creating an agency to enforce those laws, because otherwise it's just ink on a paper if it's not enforced. So we need an agency that actually brings every single court order of visitation and charge with felony to other parents who are denying this right. Why is this so important to me? I was kidnapped when I was 3 years old. I was put on the Hughes Convention. I know what happened with the cases that fall through the cracks. I was one of them. Child trafficking, sex trafficking is not a story or a far-fetched, fidget of imagination. It happens, and I'm sorry about that. And very few people are able to survive and overcome the pain and trauma. I have a background when it comes to child development. I went to Texas A&M for child development. I know what happens to these kids behind those walls, either in foster care, CPS, misusing and abusing, defaming parents, I know what happens with the DROs. I know what happens with so-called professional mental evaluators who are just part of the system and another buyout. I know that the mental evaluations and psychometrics are never really truly computer tabulated, which is one of the requirements to actually apply a mental evaluation. I know the judges are involved in all this because they're getting money out of every single case. I know the Attorney General is cashing $700 million out of this disbursement of the child support, and it's time to stop all this. It's time to stop all this. I know what happens to many of these cases. I was one of them. For some miracle, I survived. For some miracle, I bury myself in books, and it was my method to cope. I educated myself. I tried to work on my trauma, and I tried to use my pain in a productive way, because it's a powerful force, and you shouldn't be not afraid, especially men. Men are not allowed to ask for help, and you have to suck it up, and you have to be tough, and you have to, the macho mentality that is sexist, to be honest with you. There's a reason why the system has been able to get away with 91% custody for women, whether they are fit or not. And it is that romantic idea, the romanticization of motherhood, right? And let's face it, a kid needs both parents. Just like mommy provides love and support and all you want, parents are also a pivotal part of our education, discipline. And it's okay to be loving, and it's okay to accept love and be able to show love as a male, right? And all these dynamics that will ensure healthy relationships with the same sex and opposite sex when the time comes. I I believe that it's necessary for somebody, especially a woman, that comes in defense of equal parenting, because a lot of men have been derailed by the system, and to have a woman who actually speaks for their rights, I think it speaks volumes. I don't know if
You are correct. Sorry for interrupting, but you are correct. And that needs to change. And that needs to change. I don't know if there's a law similar to Texas Penal Code 2503 federally. And if not, we have to place one in there. And we need voices up there, because the parents do not understand that there's a lot of children that are taken across state lines and never seen again by their parents. And they fight the system, the system really doesn't do anything to them, and or aid them in any which way. We have to change that mentality. One thing that I always say is, even though we have some great police officers, they're always complaining about the lack of, oh, the father should be involved in the children's lives. The father should be involved in children's lives. But yet they don't enforce here in Texas 2503, which a loving father is trying to be in the child's life, and they're the ones that are putting the barrier, and they're the ones that are watering the seed of parental alienation into fruit, and that's what happens. And
the devil's advocate, and if you know a little bit about me, I think it will speak volumes too. And it's not that I'm defending police, but the reality is that police have been overwhelmed with cold cases, with rape cases, with patrolling the streets, with all these departments who are completely overwhelmed, specifically right now because of the pandemic, right? So they cannot enforce, they don't have the resources to enforce a court order, right? And then supposedly you have the constables or the sheriffs in order to do that type of work. Also, they have forum and they have the power to apply the law, but it's the same story. They don't have the resources. We have 38,000 cases a year, and the majority of them is in order to enforce visitation or change child support, right? So if we take that caseload out of the hands of the court system, which also overwhelm. We have the same courts that we had 40 years ago, although the demographics have completely exploded. And of course, you cannot give customer service or even service to the cases that are coming up. I believe that is also a big issue. I believe that if you put cameras on these courtrooms, you will see less judicial, misconduct. I believe that if you hold accountable every single judge and make an example out of them, you will have other judges who will refrain from crossing the system. I believe that you have to take the dark money in politics out of the equation, and stop unions from putting money into DAs that will not persecute police, like it was the case of Margaret Moore back in the day. Thankfully, we have a new DA, and the DA just inherit, so many problems from decades and decades of corruption, right? And I have faith. I have faith in democracy. I have faith in your vote. We have had many successful stories here in Austin because the people came together, and protesting is just the first step towards social change, right? Yes, you have to make awareness. You have to make your voice being heard. You need unity.
You need numbers. You need numbers. And excuse me for interrupting, but that is a right, and that is also protected by our First Amendment under that beautiful parchment called the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution. It's been there. It's what governs us. It's what makes us free. And remember, we have to be able to have the right to a free, peaceful protest.
Yes.
We have to, and we have to show that. That's what separates us from other countries.
Yes.
And that's what people are jealous about. I get it. I understand the immigration. We live in the best country in the world. People want to come here. Here in the United States, anybody can make it if you just apply yourself to it and do it. But what happens with some of our government officials, they've been there too long. They've been complacent. They've seen that easy side of money. I don't think they're all bad. I just think that they get turned on to certain habits that they forget what they're there for. And the mob cannot, and I say the mob, the government is acting like the mob. They're out there enforcing what they want, trying to shut down what they want, trying to look with corruption the way it is.
I ask you a question. Whose fault is that?
It's us for electing them. But now remember, we have to understand that the Constitution starts with we the people, not I the person. So we all have to get together, and we all have to say, you know what, enough is enough, and you have had your chance. We have to amend a couple of amendments, I think 22nd, for us to have term limits across the board. They don't want to do that. They limited the president, but you got people in Congress and in the Senate that have been there 40, 50 years, have not done anything.
47, yeah.
Nothing, and it resonates on the times that we live in. We live in Laredo, Texas. That's where I'm at. And right now we haven't, certain parts of Laredo have not had potable water since Thursday, apparently. A water main broke. I mean, these are old water mains. Instead of building new parks and doing this and that, why don't you upkeep do the maintenance for the basic survival needs? They want to build new parks. They want to put this over here. They want to fly kites over here. They want a bike trail over here. Fine and dandy. I get it, people. I get it. But why don't you refix the streets? Why don't you pave the streets, make them drivable, number one? Second, how about, and let's start fixing all the piping. I mean, Laredo has a water issue. It's probably secondary to Flint, Michigan, and unfortunately, it resonates on one party line. But Laredo needs to step up and say, you know what, we need to start changing, or you guys are going to be voted out. Don't blame the old guys. You guys are right there right now. Instead of building that park, Why don't you fix this the water lines?
Basic necessities, priorities.
No, they
And
go let's
the,
put a bike lane over here. Nobody uses it. They put a bike lane in one of the worst traffic areas in town where it's not little cars, it's semi trucks. You know, Laredo's at Port City. So you have semi trucks driving there left and right. Imagine getting hit by one of those things on a bike.
yeah,
I don't know. We need common sense with people that run.
yes, yes, sir. And you see, that's where I'm starting to realize. I live in Mexico for like a couple years, right? I emancipated myself when I was 15, and I started traveling. And the reality is that whether we like to admit it or not, Texas has become a third world country where we don't
Yeah.
have water, where we don't have electricity, we don't have a reliable grid. In the past winter, 720 people died of hypothermia and consequences of that, you know, pneumonia and you name it.
But that was not brought on, Ms. Nuno. That was not brought on by Jack Frost and the weather. That was brought on by the electric companies trying to save money because they went out there and they wanted to put windmills, and all of a sudden they figured out that windmills don't work. You know what I'm saying? So they started saving money. So they started shutting off the air, the air electricity, and now we have that problem. Now they're saying, "Oh no, it was a winner." No, it was not the winner. It was the executives that ordered power companies to shut down the power to everybody else, and that needs to stop.
The monopoly that we have endured in Texas has to stop. Uh, Fair competition and free markets give us customer service and competitive rates.
Capitalism gives us that.
That is a fact. When they get comfortable, when they don't have to invest in, energy sources and renewable sources and make, you know, the necessary adjustments to supply the need that they have, and they are not putting money into the infrastructure and evolving with the times. Of course, this was doomed to happen. I mean, we haven't made an investment when it comes to electricity since the 60s. And how much just the population has grown here in Travis, right? And of course, that's one of the main issues. The monopoly that certain administrations have withhold, and they have a market that has been hostage, literally, to the proficiency of lack of these companies, right? And we have paid the price. We have buried our children. We have buried our neighbors. I believe it's time to understand what's happening, and the only way to make your voice heard is to go and vote. That's my in my humble opinion. Before something worse happens, right? I believe in
Absolutely.
democracy. I believe that if you're not okay with what's happening, and there's a lot of things that are wrong with this system. It's not just family court corruption. It's not just police brutality. It's not just the monopoly and big industries having a special interest who, for some reason, some way, somehow, they're always, you can trace the money back to the source, which is always an elected official, right? In the case of Michael McCall, he has 850 radio stations. They're pushing this divisive, racist rhetoric. And he has another ungodly amount of TV stations, right? And that's how they've been able to censor every single other predecessor that I ever had. I believe that it's time for good journalism, to actually come to terms, because you have the leverage to be brave and to speak the truth and be bold and tell this story for what it is, because you're not a sellout yet, right? You're not trying to keep the ratings up. You're not selling your content to a company. And that's why we can rely on good journalism, right? When there's not a special interest, you can trace back the oil and gas industry to Greg Agassiz pockets, And there's a reason for every industry to put and lobbying, for their own party. And we are paying the consequences of brainwashing and not having criteria to put our interests, our family, our kids first, and stop playing in the best interest of politicians.
Absolutely. Yeah, but you're going to be running, early vote is doing right now, correct? Do you have an opponent on the Democrat ticket?
No, sir, I'm running completely unopposed. I have a free ride all the way to November. Mr. Wallace was on the ticket. He was a gentleman. He withdrew from the race. He knows the story that I we have been carried, and he was a gentleman, and he stepped down and withdraw from the race because of the story that broke back in 2020 by being a political prisoner twice, and how I didn't let kill an African American man asking, begging for help right here outside my house, and how I was sexually assaulted, and they know about being stalked and harassed for 10 years, and how my daughter has been dentally mutilated, and how she has been sexually assaulted and the rape in 2013. So they know the story is real. They know it's too powerful. It's one thing to say me too, and or I empathize with your pain, that actually walk with your pain. And there's no speech, there's no money that can avenge the truth. And he withdraw. I think it was a very smart move. He is indeed a politician. He was a mayor here in Manor, and he is a very solid, skillful, highly intelligent individual. And as you can tell, I'm not a politician. I'm not polished. I don't want to be polished. I want to speak the truth and raw and expose the pain and the realities that our society is living. And so I am on a post on this ticket, unlike many other district chairs. I put my name on the ballot. I highly encourage you to please, if you are a libertarian, reach out to your party. If you are a Democrat, reach out to your party. If you are a Republican, reach out to your party and become a district chair. That's the only way you can educate voters on the specific issues that you are interested in, right? We were able to educate the public about the catastrophes that have been happening, because we had a George Floyd, but here in Travis we had 13, and dying at the hands of police. And then we're not even counting the people who die after they are in custody. And we're not even counting the people who are dying behind a jail cell, right? And we are not even counting the 5,000 civilians that are being killed by police nationwide in 2018. So the system has to be in check and function within the guidelines of law. And the bad officers or the bad judges or the bad, court reporters need to be held accountable. You see, I don't think it's an institution problem. I think it's a human factor. You will face the reality that we have priests or pastors that are pedophiles too, and they abuse their power and the trust of their congregation. So it's
Absolutely.
a human factor, not a specific, issue of a certain X or Y institution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, there's good and bad everywhere, and we need to have check and balances, and we don't have checks and balances right now. And when there is a check and balance made, a group made, a committee made, or something else, they always appoint their friends, their people that can look it over. It's kind of like the fox taking care of the hen house, and we can't have that anymore. Well, we're almost running out of time, but I'm going to ask you this question. If somebody wants to help you, who do they get in touch with for them to help you in your campaign?
Please give me a call. My phone is right here, right now, 24 hours for you. I have the team to answer it. The phone number is 737-703-2795. You can send me an email at Linda Nuno at lindanunoforcongress.com. I need ambassadors. My district it goes all the way from Travis, Austin, near to Katy, Houston, and upwards to Madison, and then downwards to Colorado County. So I need people in every single county, on every single city that you find yourself in. My district is conformed by 925,348 souls. And I need each and every single one of you who have been victims of family courts, judicial misconduct, police brutality. If you align with the precepts of your body, your rights, when you have been derailed by so many issues that you would never have the microphone. This is your chance to become an advocate, to adopt a blog and download our flyer and just introduce yourself to your neighbors and tell your story. Please liberate yourself, tell your story. Your story will liberate others, and you will find that you're not alone. You're not alone on this. And we need that. We need community. We need healing. Please get in touch with me. I need you on your children's side. Please help me to help you and your children. I will go the distance. I have proved it. I have put my body, my freedom on the line, and I will go all the way for you and your child.
Absolutely. Well, Ms. Nunes and folks out there, early voting is still there, especially here in Texas. It ends Friday, and then the elections are on Tuesday. It's right now, it's a low voter turnout, especially in Webb County. Go out there and vote. Get involved to vote. There are candidates in almost every race that meet every mindset and philosophy and idea here in Texas. Get involved with voting. We need people to start back and voting. That's the only way change is going to come. And also, you all need to understand that when there's a low voter turnout, it usually helps the incumbent. It doesn't help the other person. So understand that. And Ms. Nunes, one more time, thank you for standing up. Folks out there, I want to thank you for watching this Gloves Off, to keeping abreast with that. We have a lot of content down there, especially on the martial arts side. There's a lot of people in there. There's several documentaries that we have, some historical ones and some one that we just posted, and which is Judicial Cosa Nostra, the War on Parents, which talks about parental alienation and the lack of enforcement of visitation here in the state of Texas. And listen to some of the stories that are in there. It's a six-part series. It's about an hour long. Get some time, watch one every so often. Learn what parental alienation is, because many of us have gone through it. I can assure you that all of us have experienced it or seen it at one point in time. Ms. Nunes, once more, thank you. Folks out there, I'll leave you with this. Stay at peace and do well.
Another one thing I think is important before you say goodbye, early voting doesn't count on the general election. So it's not just early voting. I need you to go to vote. Once again, visit the booth on November 8th.
Absolutely. There's probably going to be another voting there because there's going to be a lot of races that's going to have a lot of runoffs. So you have to go vote out there again for the runoff break, tiebreaker, or whoever first on that. Remember, folks, if two candidates end up in a runoff, that doesn't mean the one that had the most votes wins. It's a new election. You all have to go out there and vote again. Right. So it's sometimes tiresome for many, but it's something that we all have to go through. Again,
take your grandma, take your husband, take your wife to vote with you. Don't go alone. Make it fun.
Good. Absolutely. Until next time, much peace.
Thank you so much.
Representative Richard Peña Raymond works hard for our future, traveling from Laredo to the state capitol every week.
I'm running for the legislature because I have a passion for the future of Texas. I work hard in the Texas Capitol because I love Laredo. I'm fighting to lower property taxes by providing more state funding for our schools and more state funds for public safety, health care, and roads. Some people run for office because they want to be something. I run for office because I want to do something for you.
Get up early, work hard. My parents said this to us every day as they left for Las Piscas. And it's what I'll do every day for South Texas. Build relationships with both parties and deliver. By passing middle-class tax cuts, creating thousands of jobs, lowering the cost of healthcare, and fully funding law enforcement and border security. While people in Washington fight each other, who will fight for us? I will. I'm Henry Cuellar, and I approve this message.